right, let's talk about circles a little bit, right? We have used the circle tool in the past. We see that there is a black arrow underneath the word circle. That means this is a condensed tool. It means there's a lot of different ways to make circles, right? But for today, we're going to focus on just two. The one on top while you're working is the center radius circle tool. So we'll work with the radius and diameter circle tools. So center radius means it wants to know where do you want to start. And this says draw a circle with a 1.5 inch radius. So I want to go right there to the very center point. And AutoCAD, of course, is asking you in the command line for a radius. So type in 1.5, enter. And now your circle has a precise diameter of 3. Why 3? Well, because we know that radius is the distance from the center point to the edge, and diameter is the distance from one side through the center point to the other side. So we could also get the radius if we want to see that, right? There's that radius 1.5. Cool. Now, circle next to it, we're going to say give me a diameter of 3. So I switch my tool to the center diameter. Center point, diameter 3. Now, look at where your cursor is. Isn't that kind of interesting? How it's way out there? Why is the cursor way out? Well, because the cursor is actually measuring the distance between where you first clicked and where it is, and then it's going to make the circle that big. So basically the edge of the circle is halfway between the start point and the cursor. So I'm going to type in 3 and hit enter, and of course it made it diameter 3. And I don't have to tell you, because you're a smart person, you know that the radius and the diameter have a relationship. The radius is half the diameter, or the diameter is twice the radius. 3-inch diameter is not a bigger circle than a 1.5-inch radius, right? They're the same exact thing. Very good. So why does AutoCAD have this stupid diameter tool if it's easy to do the math to figure out radius if you know diameter? Well, you know, sometimes it is. Like here, 3-inch diameter, we cut that in half. That's 1.5 inches. Everyone can do that, right? But what happens when you have to draw a circle and you got some wacky diameter? For example, what's the radius for this circle? Can you figure it out in your head? Can you? Huh? Can you? Did you? No, you didn't. Right? And if you do it in your head, the chances are we're going to make a mistake. And really, who wants to bust out the calculator? So when you see diameter being requested, just use the diameter tool. Right? We'll start here, and it says how big, and you'll type in 3.14, 7296. And then we don't have to do any math. We just type out what we saw or what we've been asked to type, and then we know it's the exact perfect right size. Okay, so these are two of the circle drawing options that we're going to talk about today. Now, related to this idea of working with diameter and radius, there is a tool in AutoCAD for drawing polygons. It's kind of hidden. It's underneath the rectangle tool, but there it is. It's called Polygon. Now, we've drawn a bunch of polygons, right? Like the rectangles were polygons, the rhombus, the octagon, the hexagon. These are all polygons. So why do we have a tool to draw polygons when we can draw them with lines? Well, the fact is the tool works much quicker. Okay, so let's see how it looks, how it works. And it's probably the most complicated drawing tool we're going to use. Okay, so if you can master this, you're going to have it made in the shade. Okay, so let's go through this one together. We click on the Polygon tool. And now take a look down at the command line. It's not asking you to click anywhere. It's asking you how many sides would you like the polygon to have. Right, and in brackets there we see the number 4. Well, that's the default. We're going to change it. We're going to change it to 6 because up here it's asking for a hexagon. So I want 6 sides. Enter. And then it says, hey, specify where you want the center of your polygon. So I'm going to click right here in the center of this circle. Okay, now it's asking another question. It doesn't want a size yet. It wants to know, do you want to make an inscribed polygon, or do you want to make a circumscribed polygon? And the default is inscribed. Well, what do we want? We want an inscribed hexagon. So pick on inscribed. And now here's the last question. What's the radius of the circle that this inscribed polygon will be made with? Well, you see radius 2 up here. I already gave you the circle, and I told you the radius, so just type in 2 and hit enter. And what it created was a hexagon. It creates a hexagon, and then take a look, is that a line or is that a polyline? So that's a polyline, right? And it's created a polyline hexagon, perfect angles, that fits perfectly inside a 2-inch radius circle. Inscribed polygons fit inside the circle that you specify the radius for. Cool. So now let's go to the right. Let's click on polygon again. You see from the last time, it remembers we had 6, so we still want 6. We're going to draw another hexagon, hit enter. It's asking again for the center point, so find the center point. And now it's asking inscribed or circumscribed. This time, pick circumscribed. And then same deal, when it asks for the radius of the circle, type in 2, because that's our circle radius, and hit enter. Now, take a look. One of these polygons is larger than the other, right? Which one is it? Is it the inscribed or the circumscribed? Well, it's the circumscribed. And why is that? Well, the inscribed polygon has to fit inside the circle, right? The circumscribed polygon fits around the circle. Circumscribed, does that sound like any other words you've heard before? How about circumference, right? Around the outside of the circle. Or how about circumnavigate, like when they sailed around the world, right? So there's a couple of examples of that prefix circum talks about going around, whereas inscribed is going inside. All right, so the same measurements, the same settings, the same tool, but one different option gave us a larger hexagon and one gave us a smaller hexagon. We can continue this idea. Why don't you give me a circumscribed triangle inside this circle here? So back to polygon. This time change the number of sides to 3. And give it a center point. And then give me a circumscribe with a 2 radius. Alright, there it is. And how about on our last one here? Draw an inscribed pentagon with a 3-inch radius. Then draw a 5-pointed star within the pentagon. Okay. So, polygon. How many sides is a pentagon? Yep, 5. Specify the center of the polygon. Yep, right there. And we want an inscribed 3-inch pentagon. There we go. So now that was our first step, make a pentagon, and then the second step is draw a 5-pointed star using the pentagon as our guide, right? So if we have our object snaps on, we should be able to go through, and then here we go, little motley crew. All right, looks good. Perfect geometry, right? Because AutoCAD can do it quickly and accurately and perfectly as long as we know which tools to start using.